Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Edward Clements, and I'll be giving a short presentation on the benefits of accepting Bitcoin for merchants. If any of you frequent the Bitcoin Talk forum, you might know me as Ed with two Ds. I'm most well known for running the website bitbrew.net, where I sell coffee beans for Bitcoins. Started that about 2 years ago, May of 2011. Before that, my wife and I owned and operated retail dry cleaners in San Antonio, Texas for 10 years. Our annual sales about $500,000. So I've been a part of the Bitcoin community since May of 2011. Actually, a couple of months before that, May was when I started bitbrew.net. But it was around February of 2011, I did an internet search for virtual currencies and stumbled across Bitcoin and just fell in love with it. Now, I don't have a programming background, I'm not a libertarian, and I have no desire to hide anything from the government or any of its enforcement agencies. But I still fell in love with Bitcoin. When I read Satoshi's white paper, I understood enough of it to realize how elegant a solution it was for bringing about a real global economy without having to rely on any central controlling authority. And then as an entrepreneur, I jumped for joy when I realized that it also eliminated the need for any third party to accept electric or electronic payments online or in person. So over the last couple of years, I've experimented with my online business, and I've taken part in other Bitcoin projects, and I realized there's even more benefits available to merchants than just the reduced transaction fees and which also become the responsibility of the sender, not the recipient, as with credit cards. And then you also don't have to wait on a payment processor to receive your funds. I believe most credit cards companies make you wait about 30 days before you actually get the money in your bank account. With Bitcoins, it goes straight from the sender to you, and an hour if you want to wait for the confirmations, and then you can spend them. Now, of course, we also know that Bitcoin transactions are irreversible, which eliminates all the chargeback fraud that happens with credit cards. And for many types of purchases, both parties can remain anonymous. Now, before I really get into the other benefits of accepting Bitcoins, I'm going to point out some of the pitfalls that are associated with incorporating Bitcoins into your business model. We've seen over the last couple of years that it's almost too easy now to start an online business accepting only Bitcoins. By being anonymous, you don't know if that's a 12-year-old who got his parents to register a website for him and is now selling stuff from around the house for Bitcoins. Until he disappears and all of his orders don't get filled. Now, a lot of the Bitcoiners got into it for ideological reasons, and they desperately want this economy to flourish. So they'll overlook the fact that this is a faceless stranger on the internet that they're sending their Bitcoins to. And so we've seen lots of websites come and go with disturbing regularity. Unrealistic promises are made and broken by inexperienced, ill-prepared, or purposely deceptive merchants. When you pair this with the high-profile sites like Silk Road and the abundance of the anti-government rhetoric that's never very far from Bitcoin discussions, then it becomes easy to see why an average consumer might need a lot of reassurance that your business is a reputable one. Especially if it's a new business that you created because you see the advantages of accepting Bitcoins. If you're selling software or something just online, there's very little recourse for your customers now since you've eliminated the ability to charge back. Okay. So now merchants who do try to create a pleasant and responsible shopping experience find that the absence of any official technical support when dealing with Bitcoin wallets and transactions can add even more work and frustration to the mix. You can go on the forums and you can find a lot of help online, but since everybody's learning and developing things as we go, you get maybe 2 or 3 solutions to your problem, and before you know it, it's turned into an internet debate over which solution is best. And everybody's pointing out the advantages and disadvantages of each and have forgotten about your original question. Now, in a brick and mortar store also, you have the same issue with credit cards in that you are relying on an internet connection for the most part to accept Bitcoins. And depending on your business model, double spends might be a serious concern for you as well. Now, the good news is that these issues are being addressed and it's constantly being discussed, and there's lots of people here today who are working on resolving these issues for everyone, either by providing their own service or working in the background developing the Bitcoin implementation itself. So basically what I'm saying is that simply deciding to accept Bitcoins does not guarantee a successful business. You'll still need to provide value, good customer service, and encourage a personal relationship with your customers. That's always going to play an integral part in any business's success. You can't ignore it just because you're taking this new and exciting concept and participating in it. Now, there are many aspects that do become more convenient for merchants and consumers alike. Bitcoin transactions generate their own unique time-stamped ID, which function essentially as a built-in invoicing system, as long as you use a new address each time. And also, if you have a product or service that can be easily distributed to customers across continents or borders, then Bitcoin just makes it inconceivable not to reach out globally for your market share. In addition, by accepting Bitcoins, you're taking part in this paradigm-shifting experiment, and it exposes your business to anyone interested in new, revolutionary, and disruptive technologies, even if your product is antique clocks or alpaca socks. Not to mention the niche market that is the Bitcoin community itself. And it is a community, even though for the most part it takes place online. So many Bitcoiners want to support this movement and will go out of their way to purchase from a Bitcoin accepting merchant over their conventional currency counterpart if everything else is equal. Now, especially existing businesses, I believe, have the most to gain from offering their customers the option to pay with Bitcoins. There's some hurdles involved to get started, but there really is no disadvantage to offering that option to your customers in addition to whatever payments you're taking. If you're already accepting money and credit cards, giving people another option to accept Bitcoins might cost you a little bit to get it set up in the beginning, but then after that, there really is no drawback. I think we're just about hit critical mass as far as the Bitcoin economy is concerned. I think if we just get a few more merchants accepting them, becomes just a little bit more popular, then even if the government does decide to impose stricter regulations on it, right now it looks like they're just focusing on the exchanges. So unless you're planning on starting up an exchange, just about every branch of the government is aware of Bitcoins and what they are and what they're being used for. And so far, the only ones that have come out to say anything there are the branches that deal with the exchanges and the anti-money laundering. Now, there's some services also that will allow you to bypass the volatility involved with Bitcoins. You can use a service like BitPay and never see a Bitcoin. Your customers will send them to BitPay, they'll convert them to cash and deposit it into your bank account, and you don't have to worry about the volatility at all. Now, personally, I think in the long run, the volatility isn't going to affect you that much, except maybe as an advantage. When I first started BitBrew 2 years ago, I sold my first pound of coffee for 12 Bitcoins. So if I sold that same pound of coffee today and tried to ask for $1,400, I doubt I would get it. So I wish I had held on to those 12 Bitcoins, but then again, by spending them, I'm just promoting the economy, and we'll see more and more growth in the long run. So that's pretty much what I had prepared. Like I said, don't have much of a technical background. I just do know what I've experienced myself in the 2 years accepting Bitcoins online. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Yes, do you want to use the microphone?
So despite that, you just said you don't have a tech background. What do you know about point of sale technology and stuff like that that we could bring into supermarkets, et cetera?
Now, I know there are some people working on it, and it will be great when we see a POS system that will accept credit cards and Bitcoins.
Right.
But as far as I know, right now, everything is experimental. I haven't even seen the Bitcoin ATM yet, so I'm not sure how that's actually going to work.
It's really cool. Check it out.
Yeah. But as of right now, like I said, as far as I know, there isn't a POS system that incorporates Bitcoins, but I am sure there are several being worked on. Yes.
How do you accept Bitcoin on your website? Have you written your own exchange links or had someone do it on your behalf, obviously, since you're not a developer, but and what sorts of problems have you experienced with implementation and ease of use and that sort of thing, and getting around all that? Because I'm like looking at my local restaurant, my local coffee shop, and I want to pay in Bitcoin, but how do I convince them to do it? And I can sort of say, oh, BitPay or Bips or Coinbase, but the fact is there are issues with those too, the ability to add tips on for things, and it's just not easy to add a tip onto a ticket, and that's still in its infancy. How do you convince people to do that, and what sort of problems and pitfalls did you have in implementation, and how does your implementation work? So I guess it's 3 questions.
Sure. Well, I like to compare Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin as payments as almost like photography. There's different approaches that you can take. If you want to get into photography and you don't know anything about it, you can go out and buy a camera where you do all the work yourself, adjust all the aspects, as far as lighting and zoom and magnification and all that. Or you can go the other route and get the camera where all you do is point and click and it does it all for you. It just depends on your approach. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I've taught myself a little bit as far as implementing Bitcoin. But when I first started, I used the merchant tools at mybitcoin.com. Now that, of course, didn't work out very well. But it was very simple and very easy to implement to my website. And I was actually pretty lucky that when they disappeared, I only lost 2 Bitcoins, and I got 49% of that back. So I really just lost about 1 Bitcoin on that. But it was really just good fortune, since I had just drawn out just about everything out of that account. So the same thing applies to businesses. If they have the know-how and they want to get in and get their hands dirty, lots of online Bitcoin businesses do all of the work themselves, and they create their own exchange rate, up-to-date exchange rate ticker on their website, and so that their own server is the one converting the Bitcoins to whatever the current rate is and displaying that price. Or you can go the other route and use a third-party service. But like you said, since the Bitcoin economy as a whole is still in its infancy, everybody's still building their reputation as far as that goes. So there's a few that are getting stronger and stronger foothold on it, but or in that aspect of it, but you just have to do your homework and decide which one is the best for you. And if somebody like MasterCard or Chase Bank ever decides to develop their own payment processing systems, then you'll know at least they have all of that history behind them as well. So I hope that answered your question.
I have a question about if I pay for the Bitcoin, the company, how can pay for the tax?
Taxes.
Yeah.
As that issue I've seen come up a lot, and even though I'm not a CPA and I'm not a tax lawyer, like I said, I ran a business for 10 years and paid sales tax and income tax on my income from that business for 10 years. And from what I've dealt with the IRS, really, they don't care how you make your money or what form it takes, as long as you report it accurately and pay your taxes on it. As far as I'm concerned, operating a Bitcoin-only business is just like operating a cash-only business. You still have to keep your records, but in the case of Bitcoin, when you can have your flash drive and that basically be your own personal offshore account, I think if it hasn't already in the future, probably will raise red flags for the IRS if you're running a Bitcoin business and showing, minimal income, but you've got, but you're showing all these expenses. So like I said, I treat it like a cash-only business and just convert the Bitcoins to cash and report it.
But it is really easy to still file your taxes, even though you're accepting Bitcoin in payments, mostly for the benefit of others, but also I'd like to know, because I don't, but it's really easy on the tax form too, right? It's no big deal.
Right, like I said, they don't really care what form your income takes, as long as you report it accurately, as long as you report the value, or the estimated value of what you have, and show it as income. That's all they really care about.
And can you expound, do you know exactly, I haven't filled out a tax form with Bitcoin income on it yet, but I hope to soon. Do you convert the Bitcoin into the US dollar value at the time of sale, or at the time when you pay the taxes, or how does that work? Just
Well, BitBrew is still basically a hobby for me, so I know I'm falling way under the radar as far as my sales on Bitcoin. So what I basically do is I fill out an Excel spreadsheet, and the day I fill it out is the day I convert it in my records. And so even if I haven't converted the Bitcoins to cash yet, I show the conversion rate at the time I do that. I'm sure eventually there'll be a rule book and guidelines to go by, and there'll be a section in that form. The IRS says, if you're accepting Bitcoins, do this. But for now, it's been working, and like I said, I know my sales are way under the radar, but I think even if I ever got audited, the IRS, most of these people do take a common sense approach to a lot of things. Yes.
I think I can help answer part of that. They're going to treat it like a stock or anything else. So December 31st, they're going to claim that that's your income for the year. Because I own an LLC too, and I get nailed every time at the end of the year. There's no way to roll it into January, February, March and go, oh, I made less. You can't do that. They're going to record it on that day and look at that sale price at that day, or the value of the currency, I think, on December 31st.
So
I don't think, how can you skip that? Because they can just look back and go, well, that was the value at December 31st.
Right.
At the end of the year. So I don't think you can get around
Right. If
that.
it's in your possession, then you've gained that much value, and that's what they'll look at.
this is probably something for IRS or at the
Right.
discussion. Do we have one of those? I don't know.
I didn't notice one.
But that's something that's needed.
Now with Bitcoins, there's also that learning curve. I've seen a lot of people come on the forums and who are just getting introduced to Bitcoins and saying, this is too difficult for my customers to understand. This is too difficult for anybody to use. But really, if you think about it, the only reason we are actually as comfortable as we are with our bank accounts and credit cards is because we've been exposed to them for so long. And we just kind of absorb that knowledge as the years go by. And then when you're finally old enough to open up your own bank account or get your own credit card, you've already absorbed all of this knowledge from the people around you. And eventually, it'll be the same thing with Bitcoin. It's just that now everyone's starting from scratch. And you know, the average person on the street has not even heard of it yet, you know, or if they've heard of it, it just kind of went in one ear and out the other, and they don't really understand it. And even though they might not understand all the intricacies behind credit cards, they at least know how they operate on a day-to-day basis. Yes?
So I just wanted your opinion on this. Basically, for a merchant, it's great for them to collect the coins, obviously, but as a customer, it's not great to spend the coins because they're going to be worth more in the future. So there's less liquidity in the whole market. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, that's a problem that only time's going to solve, really. Because like I mentioned, that bag of coffee that I sold for 12 Bitcoins, it's not as newsworthy as the 10,000 Bitcoin pizza,
Right.
but the transactions do need to take place in order for the economy to grow. And I think as it stabilizes, or when it ever eventually does stabilize, we will see a lot more growth in that. For that.
But you're kind of mad you spent that 12 Bitcoin, right?
I'm sorry?
You're kind of mad you spent that 12 Bitcoin, correct?
Well, I console myself by saying, like, well, I'm part of the reason why they're worth $122 today when I checked. Because if nobody spent them and if nobody used them except to speculate with, they probably wouldn't be where they are now. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So that's how I console myself as far as that goes. Okay, any other questions? I finished a little bit early. Thank you, everybody, for coming.